Hello and welcome to Bodyholic with D, episode number 21. My name is D. Katz-Shaha and I am a public health promoter. I've attained my MPH from Tel Aviv University and I'm a fitness trainer with well over 17 years of experience, and I hold specializations in corrective exercise, women's fitness, and Pilates. I'm also the founder and trainer of Bodyholic, the global health and fitness platform and community, and I'm the author of the book, Rip It Up for Good. If you want to train with me in the Bodyholic community, please check out bodyholic.fit so you can work out absolutely anywhere and anytime. This podcast is a part of my effort and mission as a public health professional because I believe that real science-based information and knowledge is power, and my job in this life is to empower you. I want you to have high and sustained energy throughout the day, and I want you to feel better than you have ever felt before, during, and after your workouts, in and out of your clothing, and not only physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. Today's guest is Marius Neugschwender, the CTO of an incredible German company called Noxon. Marius is a truly passionate physicist. He's the founder and scientist in the field of printed biosensors. His office and laboratories are located in Munich. He is currently involved in helping to make conventional but impractical measurements better and more user-friendly by combining the exciting properties of printed electronics, such as stretchability and washability, with the potential of medical-graded measurement methods. His main focus is on musculoskeletal disorders and electromyography. This conversation actually blew my mind. I believe it just might blow your mind as well. So without further ado, here is one of the most brilliant minds behind wearable measurement tools these days.
Marius Neugschwender, how are you?
Fine, yeah, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm really grateful you're here with me. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be here and to talk about some topics, yeah.
Yeah, some pretty amazing topics. You are the CEO. What is your position in Noxon?
I'm the CTO, so I'm responsible for all the technical things, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So can you just maybe give me a little bit of a background of Noxon so people understand how incredibly cool and innovative it is?
Yeah, so we print biosensors like t-shirt logos. So normally you have like some t-shirt logos with some inks, and we replace this ink with like nano inks and intelligent inks. So we can actually put in more properties. Normally, like the logos or whatever, they have the properties of the color, but there's so many more properties in the world. So like one properties we can have is, for example, measuring muscle activity, measuring temperature, stimulate. So by the choice of these materials, we can give these new properties to the things, but they remain like normal clothing, like they're flexible, stretchable, you don't feel them, they feel really soft, they're washable, but they have new properties.
Mm-hmm. How did you come up with the idea of basically replacing the printing ink with nano dispersions for printing biosensors? What inspired you?
Actually, the idea was mainly from my sister. So she's like more media, so she has nothing to do with the technique, and she had like problems with the back pain, and she was just had a fun project and said, oh, I want to measure it. And I'm more like a skeptical. So like when something doesn't exist on the market, either it's a not so good idea or it's technically so complicated. So she came up with a crazy design that she found on the internet. We went to some of the professors and she said, I want to print this. And they said, no way you can print this. This is impossible. And yeah, but some years later you can print it. But like, I think here the funny thing is that a lot of people have a lot of knowledge and they fear it a lot to do some things. But here there was my sister, and she had not so much knowledge, but she had no fear. So she just go for it. And then like the will brought it to the end. And yeah, so we collected some people, but the idea is really old. Like I think it's really funny because like the first car were not like like cars that run on fuel, they run on electricity. So the same works for the electronics. If you want to build a sandcastle, why would you just put the sand and remove all the other things? No, you start by additive things. The only person who does it differently is probably Michelangelo, who builds the David sculpture and says like, "Oh, just remove that, doesn't look like David." But normally humans try to add up. So the first electronics were printed electronics, because who wants to go through such a complicated process and like with all these chemicals and this to make this electronics. So the first were printed, but the quality was not there. Similar like where the batteries were not there for the cars, the materials were not there for the printed electronics. So this is like the first idea that maybe now finds the time to actually come to the truth. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So cool. So she, what is your sister's background? This is Maria.
Yeah, Marius. So she's like media and printing technology.
Okay. Okay. So she's, and then the two of you, it's like you're both unstoppable. Put the two of you together and and you've got wearable medical clothing. And so basically so it started with her back pain and she wanted to measure what was happening, the activity in her muscle.
Yeah, exactly. So she wanted to measure the muscle activity, and it was a fun project during COVID. Like when you had time and you can I think it was a nice time for just exploring some things. So we found some people who had also not such a tight schedule, and then we got some money, so we could do some experiments on it. And yeah, it started really slowly, but I think now it's not only that we work on this, but like other experts in the field, so you can read it too what they do. But now it's really fastly progressing, and I think we met a lot of the properties you need. And it's normally I show it to people and they say have to describe what it is, and they show is it something for like a textile for washing the floor or whatever. Then I turn it around and say it's actually electronics. People don't know it. It's like so it's not what people think of electronics to be. It's really cool. And these even sensors, yeah.
Very cool. Can you explain the process of using nanodispersions to print biosensors for measuring the muscle activity?
Yeah, so actually it's like the good thing about this printed electronics in general is that they're like more environment friendly, because you only print what you have. You don't have so many chemicals, and it's like newspaper printing literally. So you can have like hundreds of thousands of them, and they go through like in a fast time with high throughput. So it's like a really nice process. So actually we just use like normal printing machines that they're there for like newspaper printing. We modified a little bit, and then we use these inks, and these inks they fabricate a little bit differently. So we have to add some more chemicals that they should not be conductive when you print them, but then when you put it to a heating process, some parts vanish, and then the molecules or the atoms connect together, and then they form this new structure that is conductive or that has like other properties of it. So it's a lot of material questions, and in the end, like the materials you have, they will give you the application. So it's more in the technical details of the ink fabrication, and then the process is really it's kind of easy. It's similar like to newspaper printing. And then you stack different layers of intelligence, I call it, on top of each other. So what we do is the easiest thing. Like we come later to measure muscle activity, but you can measure so many things because you have one layer that has one specific property, then you put another layer on top of it and another layer, and then you can form really complex things. So yeah, like in general, it's intelligent newspaper.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting what you're saying. So you're saying that right now you're focusing on muscle activity, but you're saying that it can go beyond.
Yes, I mean, what we measure here is like the electricity on the human body. So like somehow body needs to work, and this is mainly done by like hormones or like electricity. In the case for muscles, it's done by electricity. So you have an activation potential, and this then propagates along the muscle via the T-tubule, goes into the muscle, then like the sliding filament mechanism is triggered, but some parts also propagate through the skin. And these signals we actually measure. So it's similar like for EEG, like brain waves. It's a similar property that we measure. It's similar for ECG, like the heart rate. It's the same thing you measure. Only the muscle activity, it's the easiest to measure, but it's the hardest to understand, because like one muscle is not one muscle. So if you have, for example, your forearm, and in your forearm, one muscle controls multiple fingers. So it cannot be just one bulk of material, but each muscle has a structure, like they're made of motor units, and these are the control cells of the muscle. So there's not one or two motor units in it, but they're like hundreds or up to hundreds in each muscle. And muscle is then controlled by how fast these motor units are triggered. So like there's this frequency to it, and how many of them are actually triggered. And then they have a pretty easy shape, like it looks like two triangles stacked on each other. But if then like a lot of these motor units, if they fire asynchronously with like different frequencies and different locations, and this propagates through the skin, you form a really complex signal. Actually, the signal looks like people talking, like an audio signal. If one of the listeners has seen it, but it's not that one person is talking, but like hundreds of the same persons, or the hundreds of people talking at the same time. So in the end, there comes out like quite a complicated signal. So it's easy to measure, but it's hard to understand. But this was only the properties of like now measuring like the electricity, but there are crazy developments there, like, or crazy methods to measure. And in the end, what we do is we make these measurement methods that already exist. We bring them to something that does not feel like measuring anymore. So it's like soft, you can do it long term, and you don't have to put like all this electrodes on top of you, and this is not so nice, but it feels like you can move freely. It's like mobile thing. So this is like the advantage that we can bring to a lot of systems, not only on electromyography, but here there is more the biographic background, why we focused on that. And I think you had one of your last talks was about also not muscle activity, but like Parkinson's. And
right.
Other people, they work on the algorithms, and like there's some stimulation and how you can actually suppress this tremors. And we work on the other side to say, okay, now some really intelligent people have worked on solutions, but they're still bulky. Nobody, it's hard. You have to glue it. You have to, and here you wear it, and it's fun. Yeah,
that's amazing. Just so that myself and the listeners can understand even better, let's maybe talk about the traditional. You did talk about EEG, but let's talk about like the traditional way of measuring muscle movements and or activated fibers. I think you guys are the ones who are actually going into the fibers, right? Rather than looking at the muscle as a whole. Yeah. So let's talk about the traditional forms, and then obviously you don't even need to get into the improvements because I feel like it's very obvious. But what are the more traditional forms?
So in general, you have like electrodes. They are made of some specific material, silver chloride, and then you glue them, or there's some sticky material, so you place them on the skin, and then you have some cables. This goes to an amplification system, and from this you can then actually see the activity of the muscle. And because the signal is complicated, normally what doctors do, they put it to like a machine that outputs audio signal, because it's so similar to audio, and then there's even some noises coming out, so they can actually listen to these noises, and then say each disease can sounds different, so they talk different to it. So and it's normally limited to like 2 electrodes, because you have to put them there, and it takes a long time for placement. There's many placement rules, and you're limited to like measuring one muscle with only one measurement. And if you the modern muscle activity measurement, they say that a muscle is like more than just one material, so they have to place even more electrodes and even more cables, and whenever you move, these cables shake. And the signal is so small that these shakings of the cable, they introduce a signal that is almost higher than like the signal you're actually measuring. So then you have problems, and you need the complicated algorithms again to get these signals out. And then you can only move on a treadmill, because like you're not so mobile. And therefore, it actually, even though the muscle diseases are so big in the world, it's not very well investigated, because it's hard to understand, it's hard to measure, and so it's not so much in the schedule of all of the doctors so far. But yeah, we hope if you make it a little bit more comfortable for everyone, that
You're going to change
appreciate
that.
Yeah.
So was I correct in saying that the traditional forms of measuring are looking more at the muscle as a whole, like the trapezius, or rather than actual fibers and specific parts of the muscle? Did I get that right? That's a big difference?
Yeah, there are multiple approaches and problems to that. Like no muscle can move on its own. It's not possible. You always need the antagonist to move as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have to go from the details, because the muscle does more, but on the other hand, you also have to look for other muscles. Like movement is not something, there's hundreds of ways how I can lift up my leg actually, and each movement is a little bit different, and like every person has problems with one muscle, but probably they can still do the same movement. So there's a high redundancy in our body and a high degrees of freedom. So it's really hard to see it, but normally what is done in traditional, you take one muscle and then you look at it. And maybe it's even worse, like if you have one problem with the muscle in the back, maybe it comes from your hip. So it's not so easy. The human body is really hard to understand. And even now with the first steps, it's nice that you can measure something, but if you just have like 1-2% of the picture, you look in and there's this nice picture of like people who have to describe an elephant, and one grabs the tail and says, an elephant, it's like really hairy and long, and the other one grabs like the toe and it's like, oh, it's really big, and the other one grabs the belly. And right now we're still a little bit on this. So like we have this elephant, but like everybody describes a little bit different part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually to have something really useful, you probably have to connect the dots, or you have to connect your elephant. And we're not there yet. That's why we have so many weird kind of measurement systems that all have different gurus saying this one is the right, grab the tail and like this. But there we need to work to get a full picture of this elephant. So yes, there are 2 parts. The smaller parts is like the what happens in the muscle. This one you need for the predictions, but what also happens to the other muscles. So to give you one example, what can be done really good, and what we do is like actually a really complicated thing as it sounds, is like a brain-computer interface. So like people who cannot move the arm anymore, the signals still come in, so on the fingers. So you can actually measure these signals there, and if you have enough measurement, like electrodes on it, then you can predict what this person wanted to do. So you give back the functionality of like how the each finger wants to move, and there you serve more like the underwear of an exoskeleton. So like you're the interface between the hardware that actually moves something that cannot be moved again, and the prediction what the brain intended to do. But this one is non-invasively. So like you don't have to implant like something in the brain or something in your arm, but you just wear it and you have this information there. And even better, like normally nature is simple and complicated. So the same signal that you can measure, you can as well like trigger to stimulate. So it's electricity stays electricity or current is current. Then that's what they do, like if all the EMS suits for the training. And then for people who really have problems with their muscles, then you stimulate and you can move, you can get their intentions, and you can still grow muscles. And maybe in future, if you then can go down to these motor units, then you can stimulate these motor units only. Because right now the same problem with like the EMG, the EMS, like the training suits for like building up muscles, they're really bulky and they stimulate one muscle at a time. But it's not such a natural movement. That's why you have to do the natural movement at the same time. It's really important. But for some people who have problems with the movement, maybe it would be better to have like more the natural movement at the same part. But then you have to go into the smaller parts again. Yeah. So there's a lot of complication.
So if I was wearing one of your leggings,
yeah,
and it's totally interlaced with biosensors, am I correct?
Yeah. So like
Okay.
here we go more from we go more from like the edge problems. The edge problems are people who really have the problem. So like you wear the leggings and then you can measure the muscle activity and you can stimulate and you use it together with an exoskeleton. So you have the combination of a lot of things. And for people who really have problems and cannot work again, like then it gives a huge benefit. And here I think the use case is really clear, and it then goes to use cases where we maybe even can discuss here, like how useful is it and how much do you actually need to measure and what do you need to do. But yeah, technology starts always at these edge problems where it's really clear that this is done for the good purpose and that it's really useful.
So what I was going to say is, so let's say, so right now the leggings are for the purpose of measuring, but if it was like right? But if it was to turn into something more like, could you make it something more like EMS? And then I would be stimulating muscles and measuring them in the pants. Is that?
Yeah, we do that. Yeah.
Oh, you do that now. It's already
Yes.
stimulating them.
It's already stimulating. Yes.
Okay. It's beyond the measurement. It's already stimulating. That's insane.
It can do both. And once I think that the part with technology is that once you have some systems under control, like here I talk about a printing process, which can still be improved, and it's only the starting where it really becomes possible. But then it's really easy to stack another layer of intelligence, like same as the ink system, to the system. So what is really on the market right now is like heating systems. You can print heating systems. They are really, really easy. So like, and so then it's like just a question of like one day to implement like heating systems for maybe keep your body at a good temperature. Then it's also what people do is like electrotherapy, like or magnetic field therapy. So, but this is like the same physical structure from the sensors you can use for this. So what I mean is like once you make this process really robust, then there's a wide variety of applications, and that are just possible to do now. It wasn't possible to do like 5 years ago even. Yeah, so we focus, but you have to focus. This is the important part. We focus on the muscles stimulating as well as measuring, and then I really like to play with a lot of things, but I really have to.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
More focused.
Right. I mean, I can imagine you guys just sitting down and being like, oh yeah, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, we could do that. And but yeah, it's you've got to focus yourself. But I just have to say, like the heating system, that would, like, the military would would buy, the militaries of all over the world would just like purchase heating systems, wearable heating systems. Oh my God. I'm thinking back when I was in the military in Israel, and I was just freezing in the desert at night. Oh my God. So, but yeah, wow. The possibilities are endless. So if we were to look at the future and healthcare, what do you envision for Noxon?
Yeah, so like the thing is to, now it's a semi-digitalized process to make it 100% digitalized. So right now we put it like newspaper, but newspaper is like done hundreds and thousands of times. It makes it really cheap and really environment friendly. But humans are not newspaper, so they're more diverse, and which is, I think, a nice thing. So for a lot of cases, it makes sense actually to individualize it, and there exist the printing methods for this as well. It's like inkjet printing, or like so what I envision, or what is already possible, but we haven't implemented it yet. So then you take a 3D scan, you map it like to 2 dimensions, and then you calculate automatically the perfect layout that fits for you. And then it's fabricated, and this one doesn't need like a lot of steps in between, because everything in between is automated. And then you have so this is definitely possible, that you have like personalized medicine from the perspective of what we talk about now, from data, that you have all the AI methods that in 10 years that can say the therapy, but it also comes to the hardware. Like some insurers need the hardware still, but they also will be like rapidly available and cheap, and there we like one part of it to digitalize this whole process. And yeah, it's already possible. We haven't focused so much on that yet, but
yeah,
then like you take like the advantages from electronics, which can go to the nanoscale and have high performance. You take 3D printing, which has other properties to make it like to make objects, and you have like the printed electronics, which comes with the other properties. And in the end, if you mix all of them with other things, like the scanner, you have crazily possibilities. And that's what I meant. Like even like scanners 3 years ago, 5 years ago, they were horrible to use. That the algorithms were not there. But now I used one, and like I had a perfect model and you can do it with a phone. And this gives so many possibilities for other things. So it's quite fastly evolving the whole medicine part. I don't know what is good. Like I think even though the technology evolves so fastly, the truths about how humans can be like fit and healthy and like happy, I think they're still really easy, and you have to work a little bit for yourself. So I think you cannot replace everything with technology. I think it makes human quite happy to have this physical activity, to don't be always connected. So there is like this down part, because this will be so much easier. But I personally believe that like I rather go for the gym than for EMS suit. Maybe in the beginning it has some advantages. When I want to build up muscles, I use EMS, but the baselines are shifting there, I think, and it's an individual choice. But yeah, it's we have to discuss it what we want to do, because the possibilities will be there in the next few years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I really when you said personalized medicine, it's that's exactly, you guys are driving personalized medicine forward here. I mean, I feel like any physical therapist or rehabilitation trainer or corrective exercise trainer would be able to use your wearables in order to personalize and really tailor the programs to the people. Have you had any success stories yet?
So yeah, we focused mainly like on the brain computer interface. because there it's really clear. It sounds complicated, but there's already the scientific proof of it. And yeah, I think there we help to make it from like really something you have to glue on, just something you wear. Like it's not the highest sensors right now, but you wear it on a sleeve, and this makes it so much easier for persons, and you don't see it. They don't have to be cables, but you can like participate, and you're not like the odd one out already. So I think this is some success stories, and this will continue to some people have advantages and disadvantages, and there I think technology can help to keep the opportunities equal for everyone, which is important for society. If technology is shared and not like super ridiculously expensive, but here this costs a few cents. So this is the cool thing. Like we can, this thing doesn't cost a lot, so it's available for a lot of people. And some medical treatments, they are so expensive. They're really good ideas, but they don't help to close the gap. They maybe just increase the gap. But here, I think with these technologies, it can help to close the gap.
Beautiful. I love that. That's huge to me. And yeah, I want you to, if you don't mind, just explain a little bit more of regarding. I understand what you were saying about closing the gap. That really resonates with me. But can we be a little bit more specific about what the success was? I didn't totally understand. Like, did you see people already use your technology and really benefit from it?
Yeah. So what is the direct benefit of our things are two things. So first you have the visual representation of what your hand wants to do. And this is already something big. Like some people haven't moved their hands for a long time, and now they see actually what they're trying to do. And this goes directly together with biofeedback. So like maybe it's not there yet, but you see the improvements, you work on that on the others. So like biofeedback is like a method where you can then access things in your body that normally you cannot access because you make them visible. So like when you then first see you move, even if your hand don't move yet, it's nice to train again on that. Or like then have the second layer on top of that, which is like put it to an exoskeleton and then actually make the hands move again. So you have your hands were there and you cannot do anything there, and now you move it again. So this is
because you've been stimulating it with the technology.
Measuring, like the stimulation, not so much yet. It's like mainly mechanical things. So like we're more the underwear of these things, but that you just wear it and it's comfortable, and then you see the movements again, and you can grab something. I mean, this is so small and this is so big at the same time. Yeah.
No, 100%. It's huge. I'm just saying, so like I'm sorry, like I'm stuck on this, but I want everybody to understand this really clearly. Yeah. So I'm wearing one of the wearables, okay, let's say. And I don't have any use in my left hand, God forbid, that's my case, okay? I don't have any use. And I want to grab my cup of coffee right over here.
Yep.
So first, I'm wearing it, and now I'm measuring what the issue is. I can see that my brain is sending the signal, but I still can't move it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then now
with time.
Yeah. So right now, what is the solution for these people on the market? Maybe your right hand works, so you press a button on the right hand side, so you can grab it. It's also nice. Or you have to do like you implement some electrodes that can also work. But here the new thing is that you just wear like a t-shirt, a sleeve, whatever, and then this is like this is why it's called brain-computer interface. So like now you have maybe your hand cannot communicate with the computer anymore. Your hand cannot communicate with the brain anymore because it's broken at some part. But here you can then close the connection to it. Right now it's still still together with some mechanical things to make it move. But if there's some small activity, it's also like for training purpose to get these signals to self-enhance, and there's some possibility to grow it again, but you have to see it and you have to be motivated to do it. So that's the new thing, why you need something wearable and comfortable on it. Yeah.
So it's almost like you're plugging it in, like you're plugging the connection between my hand and the brain so that I can actually move it.
Yeah.
With the electricity.
So, yes.
Okay, you just explained it so well just now. I got it. I really, really got it. And it is so complicated. And I appreciate you taking the time to explain it, because people like me who, we're used to just using our muscles and stuff, but the whole mechanism behind it, and then taking technology and bringing it is very, very complicated for someone like me to understand. So you just brought it home and nailed it. Wow, that's amazing, amazing, amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting what will come. Like, you think a lot of things were invented, but actually there are so many more ideas that just wait to be explored. Yeah.
Right. Well, if there is anything that you want to add, or I just feel like you brought it home so strongly just now, but anything else that you want to add or share, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, I think the last point you mentioned is really important. Like, we met at the FIBO, like the big fitness fair, and I also went to some speeches, and there was one speech where people were selling like some drinks, which probably are also really good, and there were like hundreds of people there, and it was a really good sales pitch, and it was nice, but maybe it's not so scientific, or like not so well investigated. And there wasn't then another talk and one talk later. And this was like one of the big universities in Asia, and they work on camera stores. This is like, can also be printed, and they can actually, from the sweat, they can see what kind of like proteins or like whatever is in the sweat. And I think this is, and at this working group of this person who gave the speech, there were like, I think, 2 Nobel Prize winners on the last 8 years or something like this. So like really big in science. So like really, really big. And normally, if this would have been a science congress, like, this university is so famous, the topic, but the work they do is like one of the best in the world. They work a lot with graphene. And this person was a really big person in science. But I was the only listener. This was crazy to me. Like, I was the only people listening. And I think there's a big gap, especially like in sports, and it's especially like also in some kind of in healthcare, where there's a communication problem first, because this is a really complicated topic. I mean, I did the physics and I kind of understand it, but other people, it was too much. But on the other hand, it's also sad that these big ideas, they don't get the appreciation they get. And yes, I think it's good that you also invite other people from technical fields, because for me, like, when this person was in another setting, not under the FIBO, the room would be full and people would pay to listen to this person. And here it was the opposite side. So I think it's still kind of funny, but also kind of there's so much more possibilities and opportunities to bring both things together. So I think it's good with this podcast. Yeah.
I really appreciate what you just said. That's something that is very close to my heart, because the whole point of Bodyholic in general, my company, and then the podcast, is actually to make things more understandable, and make the work from getting just the workout to for people to be able to do the workout, So there are, many people say to me, I don't have time to work out. So on my platform, there's 15 minutes or less, plenty of workouts that are 15 minutes or less, where you don't need equipment. And then came the podcast, where it's like, I come from a more scientific background regarding research about public health issues or projects to make changes, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized that once I start talking, just in general, nobody's really interested. And then how can I bring this information to the public in a way that is more interesting, more understandable, and more relatable? And I think you presented what you had to say in a way that was fantastic and very clear. And I really was surprised when you said that you were the only person listening, because that to me is a big issue, because sports and science, they go together. It's sports medicine. I mean, I see it as that's what it is. It's sports medicine. Yeah, it's very important that we get information out there and make it clear to people. Yeah. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, so thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for working so hard and creating a healthier world. Wow, you're doing an amazing job.
You do also an amazing job, for closing this gap,
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Marius, you and I are going to be in touch, and I really appreciate your time.
Goodbye,
Okay. Bye-bye. Have a great day.